Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion? That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words micro. That's pound 250, micro.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO-FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted home loan lender, MortgageGumbo.com.
Tensions rising. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. ICE operations expected to hit the streets of Chicago this weekend, prompting local officials to fence off the city's courthouse and prepare for potential protests.
Where I am is Pilsen, a well-known Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, where the tension is really amplified by both politicians and protesters. The protesters have already gathered in the town of Broadview, a suburb to the west of Chicago. And according to the mayor, a building there is going to be used as a processing center over the next 45 days for these enhanced ICE operations. So it's the first target protesters can set their sights on. And riot fencing has gone up around the Dirksen Federal Building downtown Chicago, even though Illinois Democrats are urging their loyalists not to riot. The narrative that they're pushing is that the enhanced immigration enforcement is intended to trigger riots and therefore justify deploying the National Guard.
Fox's Mike Tobin, illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, could be sent to a tiny African country. He apparently has reportedly been notified he'll be deported to Eswatini. This coming after the alleged gang member's lawyers said he fears prosecution in 22 other countries. Looks like there may be a new name for the Defense Department.
An executive order signed by the president rebrands the Department of Defense as the Department of War, reverting to a name for the department used until 1947. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, taking on the title of Secretary of War, says the order is about restoring a warrior ethos.
The War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense.
Congress created the Department of Defense and may need to vote to codify the president's action, something President Trump says he will put before lawmakers. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And America is listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life, the Money Show. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Thanks for joining this beautiful morning. A lot of stuff to talk with you about today. I've got Wes Blanchard in studio with me for this hour. You know what we'll be talking about. We'll do some estate planning, and pretty important topic, along with what we'll cover in hours 2 and 3 regarding accumulating wealth and keeping it, but at some point you're going to leave it behind. So that's why I think this is an important hour, and then we'll get into what's going on with accumulating money and keeping it. I've got a tremendous amount of topics here to cover with you. But I've had and I'll share with you, some of you that have joined the show, we have people that move in and out of the show. I've been doing this for more than 15 years, as most of you are aware of. I did, in the middle of this 15-year run, I did 7 years of the Daily Wrap. And throughout my daily work, weekly work with the firm and living life, I come across people all the time. This fellow named David at Cycle Shack in Picayune was a longtime listener of the weekly wrap, and he really wasn't a listener of this Saturday show. And I hated to give that up back then because I knew that was kind of a different audience we had on weeknights versus the Saturday show. But I actually, having run that for 7 years, I thought, I was like, wow, I didn't expect to be doing it that long. And when I started it, I didn't know if I could do it for very long, because that's why I kind of did it. I think it was a 6-month agreement to see if I would be interested in doing a long-term agreement to do the show. And after 6 months, I said, yeah, I can do this for a few years. And it ended up being about 7 years. And the Saturday show that you're listening to was kind of that thing where Mike Scott out of Miami had with iHeart at the time, and kind of talked me into doing this live show, because I'd initially declined to do that when we started, and after some convincing, I decided to do it. And he mentioned to me it would be life-changing if I made this decision to go forward with the show, and he was accurate. It is kind of it has been life-changing with the people we reach, with how we help people, the feedback I get on a weekly basis from listeners. And that's through all parts of my life coming across. I was having a discussion, let's see. Yeah, I was having a discussion a few weeks ago with a gentleman, and he says, there's this guy I listen to on Saturday mornings. He sure sounds like you. And he was kind of going on. He said, do you know about that guy? I said, yeah, I kind of do. That's me. So I kind of get that a lot of times, because I guess I was pretty relaxed dressed and very comfortable. And a lot of people listen but don't connect a face, where with the TV show and all I do now, the face is connected, and they put with the voice, which is distinctive, connects a face with that. So we're doing a good bit of TV work, and I'm probably in a few weeks going to go tape shows for adding additional episodes to the TV show that we're running in a few markets there. And with the radio show, I've taken some time off this year. We had our 15th anniversary celebration a few months ago, and I had listeners reach out with concerns about the amount of best ofs and stuff that we've run this year, and we've ran more repeats this year than any other year. And I'm going to address that when we get to hour 2 and talk to you a little bit of what's been going on, what my outlooks are, what my thinking is, and what's going on with me personally. Because some people have inquired about the repeats, have also inquired about my health, and I'm going to bring you up to speed on my health. There's a topic to talk about there, and I'll just share with you everything's good. But I will share with you because I think it's really important. Things that I experience that can help you, I don't mind talking about. It's a lot easier with a good outcome also as well from that standpoint. So in hour 2, I'm going to talk with you about that. So if you don't have a cup of coffee, maybe go pour it here and set in to have some fun, learned some stuff today. I've got some important topics, and I have a stack of content, but my head's always full of it. Anytime, any place, I can give a talk on money. And any variation of it, and that's one reason I'm on TV quite a bit now, doing interviews, and I'll talk about some of those interviews and share some information with you. But I've got Wes Blanchard here in studio with me, so we'll jump right into that. Enough about me, and it's more about what Wes wants to talk about and how that can help you. How have you been, Wes?
We've been doing great, thank you. Always enjoy being on. Thanks for having me, of course. But look, business has been good for us. You know, I think it's been great for you guys as well. It's that time of the year. For our firm, we feel typically, you know, this is usually the last push for a lot of clients to come in before the holiday season. It's a great time for families in particular because now the kids are back in school. So that sense of normalcy is back at the household. Maybe you've got a better grip on your time and your management. If your households are anything like mine, you know, having kids home during the summer really it throws the scheduling off the rails a bit. So I get it. But you know, with the coming holiday, we usually do see a bit of a slowdown, and you know, that's fine. That's typical. It's every business has cycles, right? And so we work through that every year, but. Now's a really good time to kind of get it over and done with, put behind you, focus on the holidays that people, you know, we often talk about when's the right time to talk to your loved ones about estate planning. Everybody has their own preferences, right? I understand the convenience of having everyone gathered around the table for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but probably not the topic everybody wants to focus on that day. So having it behind you by the time you get there is you know a good place to be in during those holiday seasons. But again, always enjoy being on the show. I was listening to you talk about the weekday show, and you know, we were chatting a little bit about the LSU game before we got on the air, and it reminded me a little bit about college football, right? That Saturday listener, and if you compare that to the Saturday college football viewer, that's a different type of person than the folks who are watching the weekday college football games, right? It's a different audience. If you're watching those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday football games, man, you are in it. You are a football fan, you know. And the same goes for the weeknight shows. You know, if you're listening to that every week, man, you are on top of it, and you know you really feel like this is something that needs to be addressed every day. Ideally, one step forward every day. So, you know, I think we're all really grateful for that weeknight show when you had it. But, you know, focusing on Saturdays, obviously, look, we're here. We're live, and so we're happy to take questions as they come in. Today, for me, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the succession and probate work that we've been doing. I think that's always interesting. You know, there's a variety of different experiences through that succession process, and so you know we have a lot of folks that come in and they are intent on avoiding that process, having been through it with relatives, their own family, you know, mom, dad, grandmother, aunt, that sort of thing, and they've had one too many experiences with that succession process, and they want to come in and avoid that. So you know that's part of it, and that's what we use a revocable trust for. Very good tool to get that done, and if it's set up and administered correctly, it'll absolutely get that job done for you. But we do still have, you know, a good bit of clients that come in and they have a succession to work through. And so, you know, it's the cards are what they are at that point. And so our job from that point forward is to make that experience as smooth, efficient, pain-free as possible, right? And so that's really what we've been focusing on. But, man, there's just a lot of different ways those successions can shake out, and so you know I'd like to just kind of dive into some of those if you'll permit. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, we'll just roll.
Yeah.
With what's on your mind. It's been a little bit since we've had you on live here, and there's always cases that you're working on. There's things I always see, and going forward from my firm standpoint, there's probably going to be a little bit of change that you and I are going to talk about on how we can help people better with the estate planning process. You know, what I would like, what is my goal is every client has their estate plan buttoned up. Doesn't mean it won't change, but it's to where can I set up a process that every client has a will, has a power of attorney. And then I think the next level, of course, revocable trust. But what's kind of the fundamental part? Can we get at least these basic things there? And would you speak to that? What do you think, kind of, if you kind of said, what do I have to do from an estate planning standpoint? I think it's a will. I think it's a power of attorney. It's also the medical aspect of it. I think those are the fundamental parts. What are your thoughts?
I think you're spot on. It's a great spot to start, and I think from that perspective, really important to really dive into that. So we've got the break coming. We'll touch on that as soon as we get back.
Well, we'll get into that when we come back from the break. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be right back.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC. And Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
The program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Welcome back to Winning at Life, the financial news talk show. We have Wes Blanchard here in studio with us this hour. One of the things we're going to discuss on this segment is my feeling of how do I get for everybody that becomes a client or is a client at Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority, how do we get every one of them with at least the basic important parts of an estate plan? Might not get to the trust part, but how can we get them fundamentally in a place that if something happens, they have a power of attorney, they have a medical power of attorney. What if they died sooner than they think they would? Because we all think we've got plenty of time, and having a will. I would like that to be for every client that we have. Wes, is that kind of the fundamental basis? If I'm building an estate planning house, is that kind of the foundation?
That's right. That's exactly where you have to start, at the very bottom with the basics. Your foundation is going to be a will. Now, as you mentioned, in some plans that are a little more advanced, we can make use of a trust. But for now, for purposes of this discussion, let's just stick with what a will is going to do for you. So at the outset, obviously, it's going to help you get your assets to the people that you want, right? And more importantly, in the form and fashion in which you want. So, you can dictate whether it's a quick and easy split amongst 2 or 3 heirs, but also more importantly, if you've got a couple of items that you want to carve out, we see firearms, we see some motor vehicles, boats, and things of that nature. Jewelry is another one that's always carved out. Sometimes some artwork is carved out, but it's those individual pieces that are left to specific heirs, and then they say, hey, after I'm done with that, it's split evenly 4 ways, and y'all can sort out how that happens. So just from a basic perspective, it's keeping you in control of your estate. And some folks, they come in and say, well, look, I've got 2 kids, my wife's died already, so doesn't the law just split everything amongst my 2 children as it is? Well, yes, but it doesn't do anything other than that. It doesn't appoint an executor for your estate. It doesn't give your estate the independent administration that we've talked about on this show in the past, which we think is incredibly important for estates that need to go under administration. And it really kind of takes that flexibility out of your hands and it leaves it in the hands of the state. That's what we're all trying to avoid, right? We're here working hard from a financial perspective and a legal perspective to keep you in control of your assets and your money. So again, back to your starting point is, hey, we need to get these plans put in place because it's important in the first place, but it really is a capstone for a good financial plan. We don't want to leave a loose end at the very top of a financial plan, right? You spend years and years and years saving, investing with the right people, getting the right guidance, and if it's not buttoned up at the end, it maybe not all for nothing, but it could go awry at the very top of years and years saving, investing guidance, and if it's not buttoned, maybe not all for nothing, but it could go awry. It's going to go fashion that you don't want, and it's sweat and tears into getting that financial nest egg set up. The last thing you want is to lose control of it at the end. So a great starting point is going to be a will, always.
Think of so many scenarios that we see in the news, and one of them was Jimmy Buffett's estate is kind of a hot mess right now, where he had everything put together. Looks like they was co-administrators of the estate and managing the vast assets that he created from just being the singer talking about the easy life on the beach, so to speak. And now she's suing those because they're not doing things as she thinks it should be done, or being open with her as well. And I think you got to have that kind of in mind to maybe trust those that you're leaving the assets to. And it might be where you want to have conversations with the family. So you kind of start with a will, but if people are going to wonder why you did that, and that's what you also I need you to think about when you're doing a will is the why. And how might they think about or wonder why you did it that way? Now, that's not something you're going to explain in the will, but that's maybe a conversation you should have also when you're doing this estate planning.
Yeah, I think you're focusing on a great point, and you know, it actually stretches beyond the will into the powers of attorney that we were alluding to as well, right? When you're giving someone a job, specifically as an executor or a power of attorney for you, do not surprise them with that job.
Right? Oh my gosh, yes. You should almost interview them and make sure it's okay that you're giving them that responsibility. It's huge.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have to keep in mind, we've had several successions in estates that were well intended that ended up in administration for 2 to 3 years. And these folks are working their butt off after working their job 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. They're trying to manage this when they get home as well. So it can become a job. Now, look, the code does provide for some compensation for that. But some folks will tell you it's still not, the juice is not worth the squeeze for me. I don't need the extra money. I'd rather not have the headache. So, yes, you do want to certainly talk to the people that you think would do the best job. Everybody's going to have a person or two in your circle that you say, you know what, I'm going to point to him or her, and I think that person would lead my estate to a quick, easy resolution. But if they don't have the time for that, then that really can throw things up in the air. The last thing you want is someone to apply, I think, would do the best job. An administrator or an executor named in the will, anyone who has an interest can come in and apply to be the executor. So again, you may be splitting it 3 or 4 different ways and say, look, I'm happy to give it, you know, that structure, but the last person I want coming in here is person D, right, to be my executor. We're not going to cut that person out, but they sure shouldn't be running the show here. And so, you know, again, there's a lot of very basic reasons to have a will in place, but it starts with control. It's retained. It's your last bit of control on what you've kept and what you've put together, your possessions, your estate, everything you worked for. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind at the front. But I like the idea that you brought up. You know, it's almost an interview process. If you don't know who that person's going to be, right, you still need to speak with them. But if you're really kicking the tires, man, ask them the right kind of questions. See if you can, you know, sniff out some bias, maybe some tendencies that are either good or bad, right, that help lead you in the right direction to select the person that's going to run your estate the way that you would want it to be run.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be a conversation. Now, we could have different levels of complexity, and let's define maybe what that average household is like. The average household probably has husband and wife. Don't know what the percentage of is, you know, where this might not be the first marriage. A lot of households are second marriage, so that creates complications. There's a couple of kids. There's a house, probably a couple of cars, pet, 401k, IRA, banking accounts, and some savings. And this could be, let's say, if we're covering a large number of households, we probably have anywhere from 100,000 in assets to a bit over $1 million there in value, maybe upwards when you consider the real estate involved. Maybe we're getting close to 2 million, because a lot of 401ks today have $1 million. Is not out where it used to be kind of like, oh my my gosh, can I ever get to that? It's becoming more of the norm. So when you kind of look at that from the average household, that's kind of what you're dealing with. That 401k is going to have a beneficiary. Your life insurance is going to have a beneficiary. If you have an annuity, it's going to have a beneficiary. Your Roth, your IRA are going by beneficiary designations. And that's one reason to work with somebody where you're having a conversation every year. And if you're working with our firm, Financial Advising, you're having conversations every year. You're sitting down with an advisor at least once, more likely multiple conversations throughout the year. So we have music playing. We're going to take a break. We're going to pick this back up and kind of dig into where estate planning helps that scenario I just laid out. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I started my retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money out of my TSP and pay that mortgage off?
My problem is I have champagne tasting of your salary. What is a balloon note?
Is that cutting it too close?
So will I still be eligible for Medicare?
Is there anything better I can do with the money I transferred into the Roth from my 401k? My goal is to retire at age 60. I'm 54 right now.
Hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and he's got probably $2,500 in. Is there anything we can invest it in?
And I just started a 401k a little late in life.
Then that should be like 10%.
Now, how far in advance do you recommend that someone goes to visit the Social Security office?
I want some money in a casino playing poker.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, or you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keep with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. New Orleans.mosquitojoe.com. New Orleans.mosquitojoe.com.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1978. Cancer Crusaders Incorporated is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $5 million for the local cancer research centers, LSU Stanley S. Scott Cancer Center and Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. Visit us at cancercrusadersla.org.
Gumbo Nation, you did it again. Thank you. 10 plus years on air, Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam has grown because of your trust in me as your local preferred lender with all your home loan needs. My recent recognition as a national top lender is awesome, but being your local lender is what matters to me and why I'm so thankful. I promise to continue to earn your trust in making your needs my priority. Visit MortgageGumbo.com.
Stevens. Protesters rally outside a rumored ICE processing center in Broadview, Illinois, ahead of a possible White House immigration crackdown in Chicago.
The ICE detention facility expected to be operating 24/7 once immigration action begins, as the governor and others tell people to protest peacefully as to not trigger the need for President Trump to also send in the National Guard.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. More reaction to a recent U.S. Navy strike on a ship from Venezuela allegedly carrying drugs. Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst on Fox.
Let this also be a warning to China and others who continue to flood our streets with illicit drugs. It must stop, and we will take action to safeguard our communities.
Venezuela's president, meantime, accusing the U.S. of seeking a regime change. America's listening to Fox News.
This is Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Bring the show to you every Saturday. It starts at 10 and goes to 1 o'clock. If you're looking for more information about myself, the host, Gregory Ricks, about the show, go to gregoryricks.com. There's a lot of help, a lot of insight there. Check out our blog, and if you're looking to start a deeper conversation, you can execute that there and request that at the website. My office number, as well as 504-832-9200. Email is info@gregoryricks.com. And if you have a question, just start a conversation there, whether it's through email, interacting with the website, downloading some information, or leave us a message. You can do so right now at the office, but reach out and start a conversation. When we went to the break, I'd put the scenario of something that fits most households. Couple kids, married couple, home, couple cars, probably a pet, 401k, IRA, Roth, maybe some life insurance, some banking accounts, assets ranging anywhere from maybe a few $100,000 overall to $1 million plus. And I'm not trying to give an age range, because things happen to people and we hear it in the news. But we do hear about people dying on a routine basis, because they kind of publish or make note of the famous people that die. You know, this movie director, this singer, this actor, this politician, notable people you do kind of hear about, and sometimes like, wow, that's surprising. But you do hear about incidents all the time, whether somebody in a motorcycle accident, a car wreck, or that they had a heart attack. Like, wow, that's surprising. So things happen, and what we're wanting to do is kind of help put that at ease so you're always prepared. I expect to live a long time, but with that said, I might not. So I need to be prepared in that way. And also, I talk with my family about these things, that how I'm thinking about things and stuff that they're going to deal with, and even with my wife. And there's some property we have that we enjoy, but she sure as heck doesn't want to have that property without me. It would just be too much. And I said, if something happens to me, you put it up for sale. So, it's kind of conversations like that. And we probably have more vehicles than she would need without me. You know what? Sell them. And that's kind of, and I hear these discussions where family members on how things don't quite go as planned, and it might be the second wife decides to do something that the kids aren't aware of or weren't thinking this was going to play out. And that's why I think you kind of need to put together the will and think about it. Now, you can do that, and 3 years goes by, and I'll tell you my opinion of 3 years. 3 years is a long time. So much can change during that period, and I think those conversations, Wes, need to happen more often. Not only should you work with an advisor and have financial discussions, but you should be able to have those discussions with your financial advisor about your estate. And they should be asking you what's changing, what's thinking. Have you discussed this with family members? And our approach is to kind of get to where everybody has a plan, at least the basics in place.
Yeah, and I think that's what the general approach should be, right? And it doesn't matter, as you mentioned, whether you're on the lower end of the spectrum from an asset perspective or the higher end. But it does make a difference, I think, to get some professional help, right? What we don't want, and what we see a lot of in our firm, in our practice, is that this self-starting idea of doing your estate plan yourself, or grabbing a form online or using one of the online tools. It's really just not the place to start. You know, you and I both have sort of war stories of estates that have gone awry, sometimes in a financial perspective, sometimes from a family perspective, right? And a lot of it has to do with a handwritten will or poorly drafted will that you grabbed online at some point. So when you get started here, you want to make sure you've got the right kind of guidance, right? And I've said it before, but I find that do-it-yourself estate planning I think it has a much more immediate consequence than do-it-yourself financial planning, right? A do-it-yourself estate plan can lead directly to litigation when you're gone. And that's the part of our firm that we get concerned about. We want to keep our clients out of harm's way. Certainly clients that we work with together with you guys, we want to keep them out of harm's way by having a professional estate plan put together for you. So just be very mindful of that, right? If you're thinking of doing that sort of thing, we see cases all the time that come in and, you know, they believe they've got this buttoned up, and I look at the will and I say, this is, you know, you didn't sign it the right place, you didn't date it at all. You're using terms that are just going to cause more confusion than anything. We just processed an estate it took 2 months, should have taken 2 weeks. But it was a will that was clearly drafted by the person who signed it, and there was use of terms in there that really threw the entire estate actually up into the air. And so what we had to do was get basically a family meeting set up and explain that to the heirs that, hey, this will says this. We can all kind of read what she was trying to do, but from a legal perspective, the words that she used are going to deliver a different result. So if we're all in the agreement that we're going to try to fix this, we'll have you guys sign off on certain respects here, and that'll shift the estate in the direction that everyone expected initially, especially the person who wrote it. But that's just one of many, many stories that we see that come through our office, and, you know, it causes a delay in the succession process. Other times, you know, we've had ones. I have multiple cases, you know, 5 or 10 litigation cases that have been going on for over 3 years at this point, and these folks are trying. You know, I'm working with the administrators. We are moving forward every 2 weeks. You know, we're taking a step in the right direction, and it's still taking this long. And so, if you think, hey, that can't happen to me, let me tell you, so did these folks. They thought it couldn't happen to them until they ended up with an estate plan that was unclear. Didn't provide the requisite direction, and now has resulted in folks loitering up. The estate spending some money. We're in court 3 or 4 times a year trying to sort out issues. You know, and sometimes I'll tell you, look, this is a selfish statement, but sometimes the attorneys on both sides want desperately to get this resolved. But we have to represent our clients, and so if the clients are not interested in resolving it, if there's going to be some more argument between the family, there's not much we can do to stop that, right? We're going to have our marching orders and do what we're asked to do. But those are all just examples, right, of what can happen when you don't have an estate plan put in place. And these are the reasons we're kind of banging, you know, the table here.
So on this case you're sharing with us, the person wrote a will. Not the first time we've seen a will where languaging is wrong in there and has creates problems that they weren't expecting. And then the beneficiaries are probably somewhat surprised by that. Is that something you commonly see on do-it-yourself wills?
Yes, and it's unfortunate because you think that, look, I can just make it black and white here, but oftentimes, you know, we have this unique legal system with unique legal terms. We have naked ownership and usufruct and all of these forced heirship. And some folks come in and they think that they understand those concepts adequately. And the result is sometimes devastating when they include those terms in the will, and it kind of undoes their end intentions.
Okay. I'm going to shift gears to maybe somebody remarrying late in life and how it might affect the estate. So let's jump into that when we come back from the break here on Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Can you raise your payout on your Social Security after full retirement by continuing working and paying in more? Do you get a raise for that?
Remember, the core thing is Social Security benefits you receive are based on your best 35 years. If you have less than 35 years, those are filled in with zeros. So if you're making more money this year that replaces, say, that first year of the 35, it is inflation adjusted. That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. So even while you're drawing benefits, you could well be incrementally improving your benefits.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities. If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Do you like having your money follow where momentum is? Remember, everything cycles in the markets there, and you've got to have proper asset classes. And how about a tactical approach that follows momentum? And if there's a black swan effect, like maybe a pandemic, and not have to suffer all of that downside move. That might be why you should take a look at the Invest 50-50 philosophy. Why I think, always felt, they're doing it wrong out there. There has to be a better way to help people grow their money and have it positioned to take income from without it being crushed when the markets go down.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
This is Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Got Wes Blanchard in studio with me, and we're working through why I've got this mission now to where we are going to work toward getting all clients that we work with at Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority Advisors and Retirement Strategies, why all clients we want to have at least their basic estate plan. And heck, if you reside in the state of Louisiana, community property law is complicated enough that, yeah, you need some clarity. But I'm going to throw this at you over here to our audience, which is vast outside of Louisiana, which means most states don't have community property laws. So if we're having, say, in Mississippi, joint tenant with right of survivorship, do you need a will? If you die, does your house go to your spouse? I asked Wes about that, and I'm going to let him answer. I'm not going to tell you what he told me. Wes, so in that situation, you got in Mississippi, joint tenant right of survivorship. So that sounds really clean. Oh, I don't need a will. It's going to go to my wife. And you said maybe.
Right. And that's really kind of where it all starts is, when did you get married and when did you acquire the house? And is this a second marriage, a blended family? How does that work, right? These are all the initial questions you have to ask to figure out which route this house is going to take. You know, it's kind of...
So, I'm going to interrupt you. Jim had the house before marrying Wilma.
Okay.
So that is not a joint tenant with right of survivorship situation, being he's also got a couple kids.
That's exactly right. So in that instance, what's going to end up happening in Mississippi is that the house is going to be split amongst all of them, right? And in most instances, there's usually a desire from the spouse to leave, if not the entire interest, to the surviving spouse. Some sort of use, or in Mississippi they call it a life estate. Here in Louisiana we call it a usufruct, but it's from a legal perspective a lot of the same thing here. So that is going to throw a wrench in things, right? So if you've got now a split ownership, 2 kids and a wife, that's maybe not their mom, maybe they didn't get along, maybe they did, whatever it may be, maybe they all get along, but you know what? Little Billy needs that money now. And so he needs to get bought out. But Wilma doesn't have the money to buy him out, and neither does Billy's sister. So what's he going to do? He's going to go to the courthouse and say, hey, look, we all own this stuff together. We need to sell it. I'm not required to sit here and hold it in ownership with them. Ask the court to order a sale. And that's true both in Louisiana and Mississippi. We have plenty of cases that we work where we have family members that hold a piece of ownership in a home or several homes or land or whatever it may be, and they just want to cash out. You know, think of the city boy who doesn't hunt, owning, you know, a portion of 100 acres upstate. He doesn't want anything to do with that. He just wants to be cashed out. And all the other folks.
Well, that's not necessarily easy to do, is to cash. You may have property, you may have some wealth, but you don't have liquidity. You say, well, don't you have that 401k? I heard your 401k was pretty big, or your IRAs. Well, that's taxable consequences there. So, yeah, in a sense, it is liquid, but it comes with a big tax bill.
That's right. And so those are things that can, you know, really prevent sort of the easy way out of these problems that are solved. But let's back it up and just understand that the problems are, they are initiated because you don't have a plan in place. So we talk about joint tenants with right of survivorship out in Mississippi, right? In our scenario, that wasn't in place because he acquired the property before the marriage. So you can solve that though with a will. Place in the will that, hey, look, we're leaving the house to Wilma, or we're leaving Wilma life estate on the house, and she can use it, and when she's done with it, the kids get it, right? So the kids actually own it 50-50, but you know, Wilma's got a right to live there until she's not living anymore, right? And that's what everybody's going to kind of understand is the goal there. But again, that's not something you can really work through easily if you don't have a plan in place, right? So we're trying to get out ahead of all of these problems. And I think to underscore the main issue we're focused on right now is the second marriage, the blended family. You know, those are the ones that are really ripe for dispute, and disputes lead to litigation.
Yeah, who has the perfect scenario? They're married when they're early 20s, had a few kids, bought a house, have cars, have built up savings. that might be a scenario where, okay, he dies or she dies, there's joint tenant right of survivorship stuff. So maybe that works okay. I still would think you probably need a power of attorney. You need a medical POA there. You might not need the will per se, but as time passes, you might want to give some considerations to leaving something to the kids before the wife dies, if you predecease her. So you've got to think about that and how things change versus the complications. So I'm giving you reasons right there over in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida. It's different than Louisiana, which Louisiana's built in you need to do something. But others, their life kind of causes that to happen as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, again, it's really just about, it's about preventative maintenance, more or less, right? You can look at it from perspective of an automobile, kind of, if that's your gig. You need to make sure that things don't go wrong later. And a lot of times that's just kind of keeping up with what you're doing now. So these are things that we keep in mind. I'm so glad you brought up the powers of attorney, because we hadn't touched on that yet. But these are just as important. We've been talking about your will and your estate and what happens when you're gone, but what happens when you're still here and you can't take care of yourself anymore for whatever reason that may be. You can dream up 1,000 different scenarios as to when, where, or why you can't take care of yourself. But you sure as heck want to know who's going to take care of you, and you want to pick who's going to take care of you, who's going to take care of your finances, who's going to help you with your medical decisions.
Yeah, and I'll throw one discussion I had a few years back with a lady and had means, but she had no family, no immediate family, no kids, extended family, and she said, well, I just would like to stay in my home and die there. And I said, that's probably not going to play out. Who's going to help you with the transition to assisted living and stuff? Some point that's going to happen. Well, I don't have anybody to do that. I said, and she's documented up, but there's no accountability for that. And I said, so since you have sound mind, ability, and you still control your money and decisions, you need to figure that out now, because that's going to come before you know it, and you might not know it when it comes, but you need to decide where your next residence is going to be as life winds down. Fair?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's, one of the many aspects of planning that you're going to use with the power of attorney, right? You're focused directly on a bit of financial and the medical side, right? You need that assistance. You need someone to pick the type of care that you're going to get. It's a big difference between assisted living and hospice and things like that. Someone's going to have to help you make that decision. Someone's also going to have to help make sure that there's a financial way for you to get there. And sometimes that's not the same person at all. And so, we really want to be careful. And I can't tell you how many times I have clients come in and they say, look, we have powers of attorney. I say, great, let me take a look. We review them, and of course I've got some issues I'd want to clean up, but the biggest glaring issue that I see most frequently is they name their spouse as the power of attorney, and that's it. And so there's no backup plan. And as we know, the likelihood is that the man is going to go first, right? Your husband's going to pass first. So you as the wife are sitting there with no power of attorney. Now you're back to square one, because we don't have a backup behind your spouse. And so really, that I always view, that's what the power of attorney's for. If you don't have one, your spouse is going to be your default helper. We're planning for what happens when you're here by yourself. Who's going to help you with finances and medical? And that's what we're trying to get ahead of.
And that's why I'm creating this emphasis that we get it done for everyone there. And we get this done in a way where we're having conversations with extended family, at least meeting them, getting to know them, so that they know who we are as helping you with a financial firm, from the legal documents. And then you've brought up scenarios there as time passes. Well, you're meeting with financial advisor every year. So that's also a discussion of what's going on, what's changed. Maybe these documents need to be tweaked. This isn't something where we're going to put off, we'll get back to us after you think about it. No, we're going to do something about this. We're going to get those changes made. We're going to push you into that. You agreed to stay with us one more segment, so I pulled on Wes a little bit, so he's going to hang around. I got one more topic I think is really important that we're going to cover. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll start the next segment of Winning at Life.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted home loan lender, MortgageGumbo.com.
Tensions rising. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. ICE operations expected to hit the streets of Chicago this weekend, prompting local officials to fence off the city's courthouse and prepare for potential protests.
Where I am is Pilsen, a well-known Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, where the tension is really amplified by both politicians and protesters. The protesters have already gathered in the town of Broadview, a suburb to the west of Chicago. And according to the mayor, a building there is going to be used as a processing center over the next 45 days for these enhanced ICE operations. So it's the first target protesters can set their sights on. And riot fencing has gone up around the Dirksen Federal Building downtown Chicago, even though Illinois Democrats are urging their loyalists not to riot. The narrative that they're pushing is that the enhanced immigration enforcement is intended to trigger riots and therefore justify deploying the National Guard.
Fox's Mike Tobin, illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, could be sent to a tiny African country. He apparently has reportedly been notified he'll be deported to Eswatini. This coming after the alleged gang member's lawyers said he fears prosecution in 22 other countries. Looks like there may be a new name for the Defense Department.
An executive order signed by the president rebrands the Department of Defense as the Department of War, reverting to a name for the department used until 1947. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, taking on the title of Secretary of War, says the order is about restoring a warrior ethos.
The War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense.
Congress created the Department of Defense and may need to vote to codify the president's action, something President Trump says he will put before lawmakers. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We're going to continue our discussion with Wes Blanchard. I've got another scenario I'm going to toss over to him and see how that can help. Here's a scenario I've got where people later in life have lost a spouse, but they continue on living, and this is not somewhere out of the norm, and then they make friends and then also find somebody that they enjoy spending a lot more time with, and maybe even the idea of getting married again. And let's say they have some assets. It could be a few $100,000, could be a house. It could be having $2 million and 2 properties. And both these people thinking of getting married are probably, they both have some assets and wealth, and they have kids. And they may not really have communicated much of what goes on and how they've got documents and how much their wealth is or is not. Why folks generally don't talk about it, I think they should. But what happens is now the kid's thinking like, oh my gosh, dad's remarrying, there goes the money. We're not going to get anything. They could end up spending it. He dies. The new wife's going to get it. That could happen. Or he could, and this is going to be pliable, he or she, if they're documented up, new spouse might not get anything unless they're changing documents to do so. Help me with that and help the listeners with that.
Yeah, and look, this is a very, very common situation in our world, right? As we know, the divorce rates are high in the country. There's more second marriages. There's more blended families. There's more of that later in life as well, not just early on. So, you know, the situation that we're focused on is very, very common. And you're right to point out that without a plan in place, you're really leaving a tinderbox there that could easily ignite, right? It doesn't take much. All it takes, frankly, is a little bit of anxiety from either side, from the surviving spouse or the children, concerned about whether and how they are going to proceed after their parent passes away, their spouse passes away. Is my spouse going to leave me enough to live on? You know, I've been retired for so long, I don't really have a whole heck of a lot. I was depending on this. The kids, on the other hand, are saying, hey, this spouse just got here. My parents been working their butt off for the last 30 years. And, you know, we're happy that, you know, mom or dad is happy at this point in their life, but we certainly don't think that this should change the family wealth that is accumulated over that time. And you can see really, really quickly the strain that's going to put on the feelings of both sides of that equation, right? The best thing you can do, first of all, is communicate. Second is going to be getting an estate plan in place that reflects your wishes. And those wishes can be communicated ahead of time so that when you do pass away, there's not an ignition of that tinderbox. The spouse knows exactly what's coming. The kids know exactly what's coming, and they've known it for some time. And the better part about that scenario is if you've communicated this, guess what? They're going to have to live with it. They're going to live with it ideally for 3 or 4 years before you pass away. So it will hopefully be water under the bridge by that time. They might not disagree with it, but they're going to have to come to terms and say, you know what? Mom, Dad, that's their money. They can do with it whatever they want. And if they want to give it to the surviving spouse or let them have the house and we get some of the retirement or vice versa, whatever it is, as long as we feel like we're taken care of, we weren't neglected, the situation wasn't neglected. And so we're going to be able to maintain a healthy relationship, you know, after you've passed away. But the core of that, the only way you're going to get to that scenario is having an estate plan in place. And sort of looping back to last segment where we were talking about the POAs, that's just as important in that scenario, especially in that blended scenario, because I can all but guarantee you that your children during your final months, right, they're going to be really concerned about your health, and they're going to take a step back and say, I don't want this new spouse, whether we get along or not, to be making all of these decisions alone. I want a seat at the table, and we're going to figure this out together from a medical perspective and a financial perspective. And so, you know, you have to have that. You have to set yourself up for success. And that's kind of what the core idea here that we're preaching this morning, right? You have to set yourself up for success from a financial angle, but also from an estate angle, because either side can unravel the other. So they're connected. And really the planning on both sides of it is going to be the only way you achieve the goal that you've been pushing for the last 30, 40 years.
You can see how a lonely heart later in life could have a cause and effect and change things, even the way you may be documented up on everything's going to pass to my kids, so to speak. there, because I'm not altering that. The person I'm not marrying is not getting everything, but the person that you're marrying also then kind of has some say on the funeral or health care and stuff like that, subject to what's being documented up. And that's where I go back to, is make sure there's conversations so that you don't have a rift and all of a sudden they're doing things. And we see this even in wealthy families in the news, and it comes up time to time, and they are documented up, meaning it's going to pass to the kids. But the other thing I think should be done is, if you are thinking of altering that, you should let them know.
Absolutely.
And why. It is your money. You have the final say, but I think that's where everything works better, and be open to why they might not like the change that you're making there. And make sure it's fair and balanced. So at the end of the day, you know, it may be Fred's money or Ginger's money, but it is their ultimate decision. But we need to work out so everybody gets along and not has bad feelings about this. And also to make sure Fred isn't being taken advantage of, or Ginger in that case is not being taken advantage of by the new family or new spouse.
That's right. And look, I think as a practice tip, right, this is not so you want to do this well before it's necessary, not because it's, you know, gives you peace of mind, but you and I have talked and seen many cases where the will or the power of attorney gets changed very, very close to the finish line. And again, as a litigator, I can tell you that is always ripe for a challenge. They're going to wonder, hey, was mom and dad in the right state of mind to make that adjustment to their will, where all of a sudden I was a 50% heir and I'm down to 15%, or I'm out altogether. You're begging for litigation. Get it done early. Take that off of the table. The question mark about capacity and influence and all of those things. These are not things you want to be changing the closer you get to your final days.
Yeah, and you and I had a discussion over a case. We got another topic to jump to, but had a discussion where somebody's probably got months or weeks left, and all of a sudden wanting to make changes, where we had made changes, say, a year ago post her husband's death. And next thing you know, another attorneys and other family members are involved, and she's wanting to make changes. And I resisted that and I spoke to her about it. I said, everything's pretty clear. Them asking me to make changes wasn't happening because it's not her. So this does happen. So next thought is, how do we make this estate live on beyond you, multi-generational maybe?
Yeah, and so, you know, I saw a stat recently, and it said the estimate for the spin down of a generation's wealth, right? What you're left is, by the second generation, 70% of it's going to be spent, and by the third generation, 90% of people have spent what you've left them. And a lot of times we're talking about an estate that should live on beyond that. And so that's where we kind of get into the discussion about trusts. And we're trying to determine how to stagger out and make those payments and those bits of inheritance last longer. And a trust is going to give you a lot of flexibility from that perspective. So if that's something you're focused on and you want to ensure that the money's not spent or blown too quickly, that it's being used for the right purpose. We've even had trust provisions that incentivize a certain type of behavior, right? We want to match, for instance, what you've been earning over the last year. So turn in your 1099 or W-2 to the trustee, and the trustee will match it or multiply it, whatever it is. And so, you know, it gives you the idea as, hey, look, you're not going to lay on my leg when I'm gone here. You're going to go get a job, and it incentivizes you actually to make the most money possible, because you'll get more money if you make more money. So these are all just examples, but you know, there's a lot of importance placed on making that asset last. Because as I mentioned before, you've worked for a really long time to build this nest egg. And look, we both had clients that say, hey, I want to spend every nickel I've got. I want to go to the grave broke. That's fine too. It's your prerogative.
It is fine.
We have many more clients that come in and say, hey, I want this to last for 1 to 2 generations. I want my grandchildren's college to be paid for, by the time they're ready to go. And that takes a lot of planning and a lot of structuring. And it takes a lot of, frankly, professional advice to make sure that that's achievable.
Great stuff, Wes.
Thanks.
How can they reach you?
The internet's always a great place, wjblanchardlaw.com, but always you can give Greg Ricks' office a call. He'll put you guys in touch with me and certainly make sure that we all get on the same page.
And in the coming weeks, we're going to talk more about this detail of how we want everybody to have a plan and how we're going to make that happen. Thank you, Wes.
Perfect.
You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. New Orleans.mosquitojoe.com. New Orleans.mosquitojoe.com.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC. And Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
The program helps to ground me with some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Winning at Life. That was a great discussion we had with Wes Blanchard, and there's a number of things I'm working on at the firm, and we continue to evolve over the years. I started off going back, a dream and a vision about this firm but it also started out, you go back to, it was me with an assistant, a part-time assistant, small office. But it was a vision to help people and give them insights that they weren't going to get elsewhere, and having a passion for planning and helping people, building relationships, having conversations, and having relationship and conversations that's not just focused on the invested money or the money in savings. And that caught traction, and we've evolved. And I keep improving that as we go, because I don't just rest on our success. So started off with that office, myself, and an assistant that's evolved to more than 20 employees, connected to four physical offices, but with technology to help people across the country, because we can have meetings essentially anytime, any place, with anybody in the country. And that's what technology has evolved. And I'm not going to open more physical offices, but we are getting really good at utilizing technology and having those video meetings and doing documents and conversations just like we're across the table. So that's kind of the expansion of our reach, and a reason to get good at that now, because I think that's more of the future, is the next generations of clients and the generation after that come through. The 20-somethings one day will be the 30-somethings and 50-somethings, and they will want things done a little bit differently than, say, our clients of the past 20 years and current maybe retirees moving through. I am old school. I like the in-person meeting. I like the conversations. I like to meet the people, and all of our team is focused on that. But we are also preparing for the future. But with what we do in planning continues to evolve so much with technology and understanding how assets move, how assets grow, impact of volatility, markets changing, financial tools getting better that also reduce risk, reduce volatility, give us higher probabilities of success with income is ultimately our goal from that standpoint. And making sure we're always having conversations so everybody's aware. And we're wanting to extend that reach to families. My conversation is, if you're a client, well, why aren't you? And making sure we're always having everybody's aware. And we're wanting to extend that reach to families. Is, if you're a client, well, why aren't your kids a client? They actually should be aware. And so we're becoming more of a and helping the extended family, helping the friends also. And I think all of that is really important as well. And it's not just extending to them, but it's also extending to the estate planning. And I think that's really important, because that needs to be conversations that extends to extended family. And that you do have an estate plan, you do have a will. Even if you said, well, you know, I'm not a millionaire, only got one house, got one kid, no pet, one car, I'm just trying to simplify it. Okay, you still need a will. You still need a power of attorney. You need medical guidance for clarity there. I think everyone needs that, whether you're in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Florida. You need those documents up. And we have conversations with people, with clients. We're doing this for every household. We're going to nudge and get it done and help. And we're going to make it easy for you. It's not going to create lots of meetings or you got to go meet with somebody somewhere else and stuff. We're going to make this very comfortable, but get this done as part. If you had a financial plan, you're going to have an estate plan is what my goal is. And this is going to be for everyone from that. And then if you make money, you're going to owe in taxes. We're working from that standpoint of how we make sure everybody's got proper tax planning, which I'm hopeful we can include to where you're all getting help or a plan for your tax returns, that this is handled as well, or at least there's consideration of that also. And I think all these things need to be kind of interconnected, which makes things go better. And just like what we've talked from an estate plan of extended family, your kids or relatives, those you impact, that you connect with, that if something happens to you, how is that going to go? And that there's an understanding and there's communication, and there should be as well. So wanted to share with you, because what I alluded to in talking with Wes on air about is stuff that I'm working on to kind of take what we do to cover more. It's not just about helping you with your money. It's helping you with how you think about your money, how you plan for risk, how are you going to have an income plan. And once again, these things need to be a little bit fluid because things adjust over time. How you think about risk changes over time. And how do you feel about risk? What is your risk tolerance? And then there's this other conversation is, what is your capacity for risk? Do you have the capacity that you'll be okay? And what I mean by capacity is that some of the values move down because some of the risk you're taking on a short-term basis, some of those risks goes down. You know, what you have to worry about is, are you doing something with your money? That's a risk. If this goes bad, it does not come back. That's a different conversation. Do you have capacity for portion of your assets to go away, where you made a bad decision on who you were entrusting your money, or somebody said, well, I could get you a 20% return in a year. Well, when they start talking like that, or double-digit returns, and speak of it in an absolute way, you should run. I'll just tell you that right now. They're going to be taking your money from you. And I was reading a couple of stories this week about that was kind of like, well, that should have been obvious, but it wasn't. Or somebody asking to borrow money, or an online acquaintance all of a sudden's got medical problems and needing some money. It might not be who you're emailing or texting with is who they really are. And that's where you need to have some conversations and that trust and the warnings about that. So that's where I think having somebody to work with, to bounce ideas off of, to help you with your estate plan. And 3 years later, your estate plan probably is needing tweaked. Things are fluid. I'll just tell you, I think 3 years is a long time. I think a year is a long time. Things change, and you need to work with somebody that you're having communications with. And 3 years, things are fluid. A long time. Things having communications with throughout the year. Forms relationships. Detailed on notes. We know what's going on. I have an awareness of everything that's going on, by the way. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to talk about Gregory Ricks when we come back. This is Winning at Life.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Can you raise your payout on your Social Security after full retirement by continuing working and paying in more? Do you get a raise for that?
Remember, the core thing is Social Security benefits you receive are based on your best 35 years. If you have less than 35 years, those are filled in with zeros. So if you're making more money this year that replaces, say, that first year of the 35, it is inflation adjusted. That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. You could well be incrementally improving your benefits.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1978. Cancer Crusaders Incorporated is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $5 million for the local cancer research centers, LSU Stanley S. Scott Cancer Center and Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. Visit us at cancercrusadersla.org.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, or you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Gumbo Nation, you did it again. Thank you. 10 plus years on air, Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam has grown because of your trust in me as your local preferred lender with all your home loan needs. My recent recognition as a national top lender is awesome, but being your local lender is what matters to me and why I'm so thankful. I promise to continue to earn your trust in making your needs my priority. Visit MortgageGumbo.com.
So, peace through strength. The White House argues that's why the Department of Defense will be called the Department of War again.
The name change is more about perception. Supporters are suggesting a message about the nation's military might will prevent future battles.
Fox's Madeline Rivera, some Pentagon officials are said to be frustrated by the rebranding. The War Department is warning Venezuela not to interfere in U.S. operations in the Caribbean.
The Pentagon moved to deploy 10 F-35 warplanes and other assets to Puerto Rico as part of the war on drug cartels.
Fox says Kevin Cork. 2 days ago, the U.S. announced a deadly strike on an alleged drug vessel. Venezuela says 11 people were killed without due process. America's listening to Fox News.
You're listening to Winning at Life. News, talk, radio. Glad to be here with you today. Yeah, I've done more best ofs this year than any other year. Not something I planned to do, but that's kind of the way it worked out. And what we always want to bring you is great content and information there. And I am actually changing some of the ways where we bring that content to you in the future, because I found out that as a firm, we were not keeping that up to date and refreshing it in such a way. So I made a recent hire to have somebody help me with editing, creation, and planning of that, where, pretty much that's always kind of been on just me. And so I found out that through running some best ofs that we didn't have that ability to freshen that up and keep that current. So that is something we're working on to do a better job for you, the listening audience, in the future. And I'm going to change how we do our podcast, because essentially we're going to be rolling out the Winning at Life podcast, and it's going to be an hour show. And here, loosely thinking, don't hold me to it, but it's what I have vision for that is 2 to 3 times a month. We have that. It'll be done live, and it'll be for an hour and I think of when we edited it for replay, it probably will end up being somewhere around 40 minutes, but it's going to be probably a position as an hour is how I look at it. But for replay, probably somewhere around 40 minutes is what we're hopeful for, and have guests. I'm thinking of having this on a Thursday at a specific time, 2 to 3 times a month. I'm not going to commit to every Thursday because I do have conferences, I do have travel that I must do for you and the company as well to stay abreast of everything and at top level. And then sometimes, hey, I'm needing some personal time as well, just like you do as well. So I'm thinking of doing that as a live that also is replayable and that we repurpose and utilize for the Saturday shows as well. So that's something we're thinking about there, and creating fresh content to where when we do run replays, you're actually getting new stuff as well. And trying to help you with that so you don't miss me on the live. Because I can tell you, and maybe I spoiled the audience over the years, because I can tell you for years, the only time I would probably take a break or a week off would get to be around the holiday time of the year, or that I was on a business conference that interrupted the weekend. And I can remember being at a business conference in Las Vegas, and you know what I was doing? On Saturday, I was doing the live show from Las Vegas at that conference that was at. And I just roll that way because it was important to me, and it still is, but we're going to adjust how we do that and always work hard to bring you value. So I think since mentally I've shifted a little bit, and I'm going to give you in just a moment the why I've shifted mentally on that, but it's also, what's most important is to always bring you content and new ideas, and I have ideas every day about things you need to know, what would make your life better, and the reading I do is extensive, and I'm like, and we're going to get better at some of this to get some of these, and it might be my top 10 articles for the week or thoughts I've read about that I want to share, and we're going to do that. I've got a TV show that we're doing. We're going to add more episodes to that. We're going to create the podcast that brings content, and now there's newspaper articles that I'm being interviewed for that is being put out there. So you're seeing a lot more stuff that we're doing to get information to you. But one of the important things is you to connect with the firm that can make your life so much better. And that's even if you're thinking about partially working with us. We have a great team of people. And I'm not retiring. I'm not getting out the business. I'm not moving in another direction. I have people ask, well, Gregory, are you retiring? Retire from what? I enjoy this. And I've got so many things I want to accomplish and vision for this. And I want the team to get better and make sure we have some that's stable. I look at it as a machine. How do I create the machine that just keeps running? And that is how I define it, and that's how I talk about it. Well, things have come up that affect us, and one of the recent requests was, and there's a bunch of people that know what's going on with me, and I had a surprise from a health standpoint earlier this year. And one of the most important things I've shifted to years ago is proactive health, medical tests and different tests. I remember the doctor that I've worked with for, I don't know how many years, but a lot of years. And it was just something I'd say, well, I'd like this test done, or well, it's not going to be covered by your insurance because there's no cause for it. I said, that's okay, I'll pay for it, but I want this test run on my heart, or other things that I'm thinking about. Why? If I've got a problem, I'd like to know about it now, not when it happens. So part of MDVIP in that program and working with Dr. Miles is proactive, and a lot of testing that's done and going into details, and have Cleveland Clinic do analysis of all the stuff that's been collected or tested. Also, why? If I've got a problem, I want to know about it. I want to get it solved. So it's also here and there, if I've had a little surgery, some minor, some a little bit bigger, but to correct things that made things better. And why? It was easy because we caught it early. And I think you should be very proactive in health care. And I'm open with family, I'm open with colleagues, I'm open with employees about what's going on with me. And you'll see here today with my listening audience, I'm going to be very open as well. 2 years ago, we got into another program that's proactive on health care, and that program is through Fountain Life, and they're searchable. You can look them up. The MDVIP program I like because it gives me access to my doctor when I need it. I don't have to, well, he's booked up for the next 2 weeks. If I needed to get into the doctor's office and see him on Monday, I can get into the office. Why? There's a premium that goes with it. So it's not something that I got a doctor that just, oh, it's Gregory, they'll do whatever. No, I pay for that. MDVIP costs more money, but it also gives me access. Our firm's health insurance plan is one of the best out there. We don't spare expense. We have a great program. What I tell employees, if you get sick, go to the doctor. You get a cold, go to the doctor. You have a low deductible, you have a low hurdle, and we pick up some of the premium on that as well to make that tolerable. And as inflation goes and drives up price, we raise that bar on covering that. So I think all employees should be very proactive in health. Even when they're young, we help them adjust to that thinking. When I bounce back from this break, we'll talk about the next level I've gone to with Fountain Life. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I started my retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money out of my TSP and pay that mortgage off?
My problem is I have champagne tasting of your salary. What is a balloon note?
Is that cutting it too close?
So will I still be eligible for Medicare?
Is there anything better I can do with the money I transferred into the Roth from my 401k? My goal is to retire at age 60. I'm 54 right now.
Hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and he's got probably $2,500 in. Is there anything we can invest it in?
And I just started a 401k a little late in life.
Then that should be like 10%.
Now, how far in advance do you recommend that someone goes to visit the Social Security office?
I want some money in a casino playing poker.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities. If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Do you like having your money follow where momentum is? Remember, everything cycles in the markets there, and you've got to have proper asset classes. And how about a tactical approach that follows momentum? And if there's a black swan effect, like maybe a pandemic, and not have to suffer all of that downside move. That might be why you should take a look at the Invest 50-50 philosophy. Why? I think, always felt, they're doing it wrong out there. There has to be a better way to help people grow their money and have it positioned to take income from without it being crushed when the markets go down.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
This is Gregory Ricks, host of Winning at Life. Thanks for being with us today. Last segment, I started sharing about me and my outlook on the company and the business, went back to where we started from, as a small firm. And I'll tell you, when I was a small firm, I had this philosophy of openness and make sure my health's good going forward, because if I'm bringing on clients and having employees, I owe them to do my best to lead a safe life and a healthy life. And if I've got a problem, address it and make better decisions with that. And even when we were a small program, it was offered up to me, the physician that I was working with, and still today is my personal physician, he switched to how he felt about running a practice instead of living a life that probably had too much work going on in a traditional practice. Probably has like 2,300 patients or more. And he shifted to the MD-VIP, which typically has 600 or less in clients. And I don't know what the fee was back then or something, but it's in it. We still have to have insurance. They utilize the insurance, but there's also an annual fee. I don't know what that was, and I couldn't tell you exactly what the fee is now. Not that I'm oblivious to it, but it doesn't matter because I'm doing it. I pay it, and it's automatic every year. It might be $1,500, it might be $1,200, but I think it was like $1,200 years ago when I started. May have been a little less, a little more. But what it gets to is I get to see my doctor. I'm not in a room full of people in the waiting room, and they do take time, and I have a very thorough checkup every year where I go see an assistant in the office and they're running a lot of tests. Then a few weeks later, when all that data comes back, I sit down with my doctor and we go through all this information. That goes for my wife, Stacy, as well. We do these things together. We sit down, we're both at each other's doctor's visits. Why? Openness, clarity, and we're there for each other. I was at a conference in Boston a couple years ago and heard the founder of Fountain Life speak. And it was a leadership conference that I do every December somewhere in the country. And I know a lot of people that are at it and some of the leaders of that conference as well. But the founder of Fountain Life spoke and talked about longevity and more testing, to where if you've got a problem, they want to find it earlier. And it's about better eating, better diet, better health care, making sure you're taking the right vitamins, the deficiencies, all of this. This is not a low-priced item. But and my wife was not at that, but I showed her a video of that conference I was at a few days later, and I said, I'm pretty sure you're going to be on board with us doing this, taking it to a whole nother level. And she was, and we did. So we work with that organization, and they've got a few offices around the country, and every year we go to Dallas to their facilities, and it's an all-day a test, like full body MRIs, CT scans, and just on and on. And then we have a follow-up a few weeks later when they've pulled all that data, talking about our plaque in our arteries, where is that at? All these different things from blood tests and stuff. And it's not just a once-a-year deal. I go out there twice a year, but also the physician that I'm attached to there, I have conversations with throughout the year for that. I have a health coach. I have a fitness coach that's a part of this program, and sometimes they're getting after me about that. But it's also just changed my thinking about health and being proactive, and I'm super proactive, but this takes it to another level. Earlier this year, we were doing some changes, and because I, for years, have utilized a testosterone lotion because of low T. And then we were looking at doing it a different way, which required some medical tests. And one of them is a prostate exam. And I get my PSA numbers, and those have been monitored over the years. And once again, I went through the Fountain Life, and one of the things, they do tests to kind of show, do you have any cancer cells floating around in your body? And last year, I didn't. Well, I had to get a prostate exam, and then there were some questions about that, like, you might have a problem. And this timed out with Fountain Life's test for this year, and one of the tests, and I don't know all the terminology, so I don't try to remember this. I'm much better at remembering all this financial stuff I do. But a test came back, said I possibly might have prostate cancer or colon cancer. So we went through that process, and guess what I had? I had prostate cancer. I found out about this early in February. That was kind of upsetting. That was kind of like, wow. And then we find out, well, where are we at on that? Because I didn't have it last year, but I have it this year as far as what shows up in that testing. And that's why it's important. If you're going to get sick from something, if you're going to have a problem, when would you like to find out about it? I know there's people like, oh, I don't want to do that because if I have something go wrong, I don't want to know. Well, I want to know, and I want to know as soon as possible. It's the same thing with money. If money's going the wrong direction, when do you want to know? Well, don't tell me I'm going to run out of money. I don't ever want to know that. Well, yeah, you do. You want to know as soon as possible. So what about your health? When do you want to know? As soon as possible. So I was diagnosed with cancer, prostate cancer, early stage, but here's the problem, is an aggressive form of cancer. So talking to doctors, you know, I talked to a few of them, and you know, two here in the Metro New Orleans area, and they were like, yeah, you need to have that prostate removed. Then you're going to need to do some radiation and chemotherapy. And here's my reaction, and I'm not going to finish the story before we go to break, so we're going to pick this back up at 6 minutes after the hour. But I'm going to tell you this. Here was my thought is, this is what you got for me? This thing y'all been doing for 20, 30 years? We mapped the genome 10 years ago. It's fully mapped. We know how our DNA and cells, and I've got a son that's has a PhD in genetics, and they do injections and give cells instructions. And you're telling me your therapy is something that's been being done for 20 or 30 years, so you got to cut, poison, and burn. I'm going to need more discussions than that. Cells. Therapy is something that's been being done for 20 or and burn. I'm going to need. I was not on board with that, so I had first. That's what they wanted to do. So I went and saw another doctor that that arena, And then I saw a physician that specialty is in radiation. So I spent a day talking back and forth with them, and at the end of the day, I said, I'm not electing surgery. I might be open to radiation, but I'm not doing surgery at this time. Fountain Life Doctor stepped in and had some suggestions as well. But I just, because of when you look at prostate cancer, removal of prostate, I never heard, what I heard was the problems that it brings to your life thereafter, forever. One of them being incontinence. And I'm like, I'm really not interested in that. And the recoveries are difficult. You may end up wearing a catheter for months. Well, there's the music. We're gonna stop right there. When we come back from the break, I know I've got you riveted probably here, but there's a lot more to the story, and I'm gonna share it when we come back. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Hour 3 will be coming up in, I don't know, about 6 minutes. See you there.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted home loan lender, MortgageGumbo.com.
Watching and waiting. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. ICE operation set to hit the streets of Chicago this weekend. That's prompting local officials to fence off the city's courthouse due to potential protests.
Where I am is Pilsen, a well-known Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, where the tension is really amplified by both politicians and protesters. The protesters have already gathered in the town of Broadview, a suburb to the west of Chicago. And according to the mayor, a building there is going to be used as a processing center over the next 45 days for these enhanced ICE operations. So it's the first target protesters can set their sights on. And riot fencing has gone up around the Dirksen Federal Building downtown Chicago, even though Illinois Democrats are urging their loyalists not to riot. The narrative that they're pushing is that the enhanced immigration enforcement is intended to trigger riots and therefore justify deploying the National Guard.
Fox's Mike Tobin, illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, could be deported to a tiny African country. Abrego Garcia, according to sources who talked to Fox News, has apparently been told he'll be deported to Eswatini. This coming after the alleged gang member's lawyers said he fears prosecution in 22 other countries. Apparently, there's a new name on the way for the Defense Department.
An executive order signed by the president rebrands the Department of Defense as the Department of War, reverting to a name for the department used until 1947. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, taking on the title of Secretary of War, says the order is about restoring a warrior ethos.
The War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense.
Congress created the Department of Defense and may need to vote to codify the president's action, something President Trump says he will put before lawmakers. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
America's listening to Fox News.
I'm Emily Campagno, and I'm taking you inside the Idaho murders. In Moscow, Idaho, a small college town, one case so violent and heartbreaking shocked the nation. 4 students were found brutally murdered in their off-campus home, prompting a cross-country search for the cold-blooded killer. The Fox True Crime Podcast presents Inside the Idaho Murders, the evidence, the manhunt, the killer, and the victims.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. America's listening to Fox News.
There's controversy.
Final report, any claims about its contents are nothing more than speculation. Tylenol's active ingredient is acetaminophen. It can help with pain relief. And over the years, there have been...
In the report were muted responses by the Biden administration to attacks on Christians compared to other groups, giving preference.
The Ricks Report with Gregory.
That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. Welcome. Appreciate the thanks. Thanks for, appreciate the thanks. Thanks for, that's shown to me from what we do on the show, what we do from a firm that we impact and look out for. It's about the employees. It's about the clients. It's also about the listeners. And I think about this from a very long view of looking out for all of you. And it is about my family and my extended family as well, and how I think about this. And that's why I've been proactive for years with the MDVIP, and we still do that program and taking that to another level with Fountain Life. And being proactive, if I have a problem, I want to find out about it and how can we resolve it. And that doesn't mean at any time do I, and there's been a couple other things that happened to me. I was having kidney stones for a while there, and that's a horrible thing, but there was something causing that had to be corrected, and when that was corrected, which it involved surgery, that I was under for a number of hours to correct that, and they did, and the kidney stones stopped. But also, if I hadn't corrected that, my life was not going to be well, and I was not going to live for a long time. And it was corrected. Why? Because of something being monitored and proactive, and that basically was discovered and monitored through my MDVIP doctor, because we're doing regular testing and such. Now with Fountain Life, we've taken that at this time. So we've caught it early, stage 1, the negative. It was an aggressive. It was scored as an aggressive cancer. So once again, I'm not going to dawdle or blow it off, but stage 1, the negative, it seemed like that doctor had too many patients. You get what I mean? It seemed to kind of be like it seemed like that doctor had too many patients. You get what I mean? It seemed to kind of be like his practice about doing as much as he can. That caused me pause. And then our doctor out of Dallas had that conversation, looking at all the medical tests that I had at that point to see if I was a candidate for his procedure of getting rid of the cancer. And it was pretty much a wow conversation, so it was a very thorough, deep conversation, and he said, let me absorb this, and I'll let you know if we can move forward. And I think it was next day we had a follow-up conversation, and he agreed that I was a candidate to move forward, and we set up a few weeks later to go to Houston and have laser ablation inside of a 3T MRI, and it turns out that's not a fun procedure, but it didn't involve the removal of my prostate. It basically involved destroying part of my prostate to get rid of the cancer, and which was probably about a 4.5 hour procedure inside of an 3T MRI. And when we had the pre-interview with him in Houston, we asked him to be aggressive, to go into the margins, but there would be some side effects of that. Of course there is. You're affecting some nerves, you're destroying some of the prostate. And we gave him permission to be aggressive, because one thing is make sure you get all the cancer. So I don't know, at this point we're a month into me knowing that I have prostate cancer. So had the procedure done. On the follow-up, he went through the MRI, showed us the screens and all, and he said, the cancer's gone. And he said, I don't know about any cells or anything floating around there inside of you. I can't do anything about that, but that cancer is gone, which made us feel good. We'd see what the side effects were afterwards from that standpoint. At that point, I was wearing a catheter, which was not fun, and I think I had to wear that 2-3 weeks if I had the timeline right. But there's a couple other things we've done since that. So you hear the music. In the next segment, I will wrap up this story. Hopefully it helps you, and we'll talk about some financial stuff for the remainder of the show. So we're going to take a, 3-minute break, and I'll finish the story up for you. Be right back.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1978. Cancer Crusaders Incorporated is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $5 million for the local cancer research centers, LSU Stanley S. Scott Cancer Center and Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. Visit us at cancercrusadersla.org.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardraw.com.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker who has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
Your program helps to ground me with some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
You're listening to Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. A little bit different content today. We'll get to some financial stuff that I promised in our notation of what we were covering in the show, but I didn't signal that I was covering me in the show today. So if you're just tuning in, bringing you up to speed on my medical philosophy, being proactive, why it's not about me, it's about the firm, the employees, more so about the clients, having trust and that we're doing right for ourselves so we can take care of them and look out for them. I owe it to my family to be proactive and open as well, and I'm open with you here today, the long-time listeners of the show. Some of you new listeners there. But Dr. K said he would do the procedure. We went over, had the procedure done, 4.5 hours for the laser ablation. The follow-up, he said, the cancer's gone. Now, there could be some cancer cells floating around out there and such. He couldn't do anything about that, but that was on the prostate, was gone. Another firm we were connected with, I mean, Stacy and I, is Lamati. They have some unique things that they do also, and they had a blood therapy procedure, filtering, that I did a week at. I go into detail about that. It was a 3-day therapy, 4.5 hours per therapy, and basically is kind of similar to a dialysis, and but basically filtering my entire system of blood would run through this machine about 12 times, and did it 3 days. And that was to basically cleanse my blood was the objective. Me being proactive, wanting every chance to have my body heal in a way to do that. I'll tell you, day 3 was pretty tough there. I got the chills and stuff, and had to put heated blankets on me because I was in a bed, and couldn't get out of it during that procedure, so it was kind of good that I was wearing a catheter at that time. But I got through that, left that facility, went to their other facility that was in San Diego for some treatments that following day. And then I've been on the road to healing since then, and a week after the catheter came out, and don't have any incontinence and stuff. I have been doing great since then. Now, there's some other doctors involved. My Fountain Life doctor's still involved on some treatments, using a doctor out of Ohio for some post-treatment therapies, another oncologist that we've talked to over in Washington State. So that's kind of what's going on with me. So I've got other checkups upcoming, seeing Dr. K again in a few weeks. We're going to do an MRI, look for everything. I've been through a lot of PSA tests, and those PSAs have come in really low and consistent, so there's monitoring going forward. It isn't like I've never had cancer, because I have. So our objective is to be healthy going forward, and if there's problems, when do I want to know about it? Kind of like yesterday, if you know what I mean. So ongoing, I don't live life like I've never had cancer, but I live life like I've had cancer and don't want it back again. We have no guarantees, but we can be proactive and find out what's going on with me. So when folks have questioned about what's going on with me, or worried about me, or the best ofs, my health, there's some of the reasoning why we've run more best ofs this year, because I'm busy doing some recovery from treatment and traveling a little bit for treatments. as well, and needing a break as well. For the firm, you probably didn't notice anything. Those that are clients and such, you don't notice anything because I'm there. I'm doing my job of running that organization and hiring people and improving what we do, and I'm there on a daily basis. More of what was impacted was the radio show from a best of standpoint. But with that said, I feel great. I feel healthy. I don't feel like I've ever had cancer. I think some of the things related to the prostate and stuff, I feel better than previous about. And I don't know where it goes, but I'll tell you what, I'm always going to be proactive and make sure that I'm healthy. I do that for myself. I do that for my family. I do that for the employees. I do that for the clients, and I do that for the show. With that said, I'll add a little bit more disclosures to that. MDVIP, I don't think was unreasonable in cost, but it costs more. And some people might not be willing to spend that extra money for that. Fountain Life, significant cost. And health insurance doesn't pay for the MDVIP fee. It don't pay for Fountain Life's fee. And my firm does not pay for that. That comes out of my pay that I pay for that. The treatments and such that I've had, you know what was covered? Prostate surgery, cancer, radiation. That's covered by insurance. The things I elected not to do. The things that I elected to do, for full disclosure, was not paid by my insurance. Wrote a check for that. It was expensive. I feel good about my decisions there. And that takes us to the financial point of why you need to have emergency money, why you need to save money, why you need to accumulate wealth. And that doesn't mean that you've got to become a multimillionaire or something, but you've got to accumulate money to where you have emergency money, that if something you need to have done and you need to write a check for it, whether it's helping one of your kids or fixing your house or fixing your health, you've got access to some money. And I think a core number for emergency money here, this is how I think. I think it's $50,000 in retirement is what the emergency account should have. Does everybody have that? No. But that is my thought. It's relative to your situation. And we have clients with less in their emergency bucket. We have clients with more. We have clients at that level. But that's my thinking on that. And then you've got to build up assets that feed you income. And then you've got to have assets if we're having the perfect game plan. Now, let's say not perfect, the reasonable game plan for retirement. Emergency money, adequate assets to kick out income and meet inflationary increases and meet end-of-life costs, that you don't run out of money before you die. You may not leave a lot behind because how these things play out, but you need to have that and you need to accumulate that. That's how I live life, which gives me the ability sometimes, well, I had to write a check to get some health treatments done that were out of the grid because I was not willing to do the cut, burn, and poison, not necessarily all in that order. I don't know what order, but they were wanting to cut it out and poison and burn, and I was not willing to go there with what the side effects. There had to be a better way. That turns out there is, just not covered. I think medicine's going to change drastically over the coming decades over the coming years and decades for the better. I think what's going on in Washington is going to help with that. But that's why you need to save money. If you're 20-something listening to this, you need to save money. If you're 40-something, you need to save something. If you're 60-something, you need to be prudent with your money the rest of the way through the rest of your life, however long that is, whether it's 5 years or 30 more years. You need to do good work, and you need to work with the right people that understand that and take a long view that you can trust, that has a team of people looking out for you. One advisor and an assistant doesn't get the job done. So we have 20-something people, and I'm busy hiring more people. Why? To take care of you with this vision we have for the future. We're going to take a short break. We'll talk more financial stuff when we get back. Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite
retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money out of my TSP and pay that mortgage off?
My problem is I have champagne taste in a beer salary.
So will I still be eligible for Medicare?
Is there anything better I can do with the money I transferred into the Roth from my 401k? My goal is to retire at age 60. I'm 54 right now.
Hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and he's got probably $2,500 in his.
Started a 401k a little late in life.
Then that should be like 10%.
Now, how far in advance do you recommend that someone goes to visit the Social Security office?
I won some money in a casino playing poker.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, or you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Gumbo Nation, you did it again. Thank you. 10+ years on air, Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam has grown because of your trust in me as your local preferred lender with all your home loan needs. My recent recognition as a national top lender is awesome, but being your local lender is what matters to me and why I'm so thankful. I promise to continue to earn your trust in making your needs my priority. Visit MortgageGumbo.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities. If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
News, I'm Paul Stevens. A planned Mexican Heritage Parade in Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood will go on despite rumors of more ICE enforcement starting this weekend.
There will be spotters in the crowd using cell phones, radios, even whistles. Volunteers have been putting together pamphlets telling people what to do if they encounter any federal agents. They're also handing out whistles so really anyone can sound the alarm.
Fox's Mike Tobin in Chicago. President Trump signing an order to rename the Defense Department the Department of War as it was previously known.
The name change change is more about perception. Supporters are suggesting a message about the nation's military might will prevent future battles. The U.S. is looking to deter its adversaries as it ramps up its military presence in the Caribbean with a buildup of 8 Navy destroyers and 10 F-35s.
And that is Fox's Madeline Rivera. America's listening to Fox News.
Hopefully the show's been helpful for you today, maybe a little revealing. Spoke to my wife on one of the earlier breaks, and she said, "You're really going there?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to tell everything." So hopefully that's helpful to you. Hey, to me it's easy. My family knows the whole story. My friends know. My employees know. Everything. You know, I talk to people that kind of like, that don't want to share, that just want to keep it. Oh, no, I would never tell that or share that. That's sad. You should be open and you should share and you should have the support that helps you with all of that. Here's you know, I feel really good about things. I feel I'm at a great point in life, and I've got huge vision for what we do for should-be clients. They need help at this level. You need to be able to have conversations, life conversations, conversations that involve you and your spouse, conversations involve the family. It doesn't mean we're sharing. We have confidentiality and stuff at that. But they should be being helped as well. Doesn't mean they have to know your personal stuff. That's on you to share with them. Estate planning, every one of you should have an estate plan. I may have been wrong on that. It comes to more of the convenience of getting it done. I'm going to make it easy on the money. That's going to become some easy thing. I can tell you that from my viewpoint. But convenience that holds up, well, that's other meetings they got to do, then go meet with somebody else, and got to pull all this stuff together. And it's something easy to put off. It's I have so many listeners, and you should be working with us. You should be working with an advisor. You don't understand what you're missing out on, and you think you can do it yourself, and you don't want to pay the fee. You know what the fee is of not using us? It's giant. It is ridiculous if you really have fees, and we adjust that for each client. And you're not relegated to one advisor, you're relegated to a team of people looking out for you. Things change. We have to adapt. And that's why we are evolving to become more for you and for these things to happen for you and make life better. Where doing estate planning, for example, is going to be a convenience thing, not something you put off. Because I've had people that, well, I thought it was about money. And sometimes it is. But I'm working on making that really easy for you. Then, well, it's about the time, and it's something else you got to work out and do. And fundamentally, you need to get it done. And you know what's better than perfect? Is done. I was taught that. Well, I can't roll it out until it's perfect. Let's get it rolled out. See what I mean? Let's get that estate plan started. It's your financial plan and your plan for your investments. Do you think that's perfect? You're going to do it and it's set for the rest of your life? It's not. It's why you have to have discussions every year. That's why I have somebody quarterly call and check on you every 90 days. If you're working with us, that's happening the rest of your life. They're going to speak to you and speak to your spouse. Depending on your level of assets and need dictates how many actual meetings we have a year. You say, well, Gregory, all I do is work. I have a 401k. I don't have any money outside of that. Well, then you need us helping with your 401k, and that'll lead to us getting you started on these other things like emergency money, your Roth account, your IRA, your 401k getting better guidance, and you accumulating money outside of it. You need these things, and you're wondering why you don't have anything. It's probably because you're not getting help. You need a financial coach. Think of an advisor that way. Yeah, I'm pressing you on some of this, but this is stuff you need to hear and you need to do. And getting an estate plan, instead of perfect, let's get it done. We can keep working on it. Your tax returns, you probably should be using professional help. Oh, it's pretty simple. Well, pretty simple's done wrong too. And we deal with clients having to fix things because they thought Social Security was not taxed, so they don't include that. Well, they're going to be getting a letter from the IRS 2 years that's going to have a big bill attached to it. 6 reasons not to leave your 401k behind. I'm going to talk about that when we come back from the break. One of them is you might forget about the account. We had a caller a few years ago into the show. She talked about she was unaware her husband had a 401k when he died. There was something else she was not aware of. He had a pension that he had never turned down, and he died. Finally, kind of law came along that required them to hunt her out to find that, and guess what? She got some back pay and then gets money coming every month. Why? Because that pension became hers. I just don't know why you would leave your money at the old job. It should be working elsewhere and have somebody oversight so this can grow and create wealth that might even become generational. So when we come back, cover 6 reasons not to leave a 401k behind when you switch jobs. We'll be right back.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
Your program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mom, it's
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Do you like having your money follow where momentum is? Remember, everything cycles in the markets there, and you've got to have proper asset classes. And how about a tactical approach that follows momentum? And if there's a black swan effect, like maybe a pandemic, and not have to suffer all of that downside move. That might be why you should take a look at the Invest 50-50 philosophy. Why I think, always felt, they're doing it wrong out there. There has to be a better way to help people grow their money and have it positioned to take income from without it being crushed when the markets go down.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Welcome back. You know, here's what I'd like you to do. If there's topics you'd like to hear on the show covered, reach out to me, info@GregoryRicks.com. If you've got questions about what I shared with you today, reach out to me, info@GregoryRicks.com. If you've got questions about what hadn't shared, I'd like the feedback too as well, and if there's ways we can help you, I would like you to reach out to us and talk about that. If there's things you wish we were doing as a firm, maybe let us know. Maybe we are doing it and you're just not aware of it as well. Ultimately, I thought I should share. And I've thought about this for a while, but I think right now was kind of the right time to share that. So that's kind of what I did today. So it's, from my standpoint, good show. Don't know that I'll reshare it in the future, but it's not a secret. This was a very public day from a sharing standpoint, and most people won't do that. But I think sharing that helps you. And if you've got somebody dealing with cancer or something, reach out to us. I don't know if we can help. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just telling you what I did and my reasons behind it that I shared today. Now what I'd like you to do is don't leave your money at your, you leave your job, but then you leave your money in your 401k at the old job. If you haven't changed jobs in a while, there's a good chance you will. The average American has held 12 jobs by the time they turn 56, according to the Department of Labor. Nearly half of U.S. managers surveyed this past January said their companies were likely to lay off employees in 2025. There's 401ks sitting around at old jobs that shouldn't be, and that money should move when you move, in my opinion. A job switch doesn't just change your income, it also can affect your ability to save for retirement. One of the things that's kind of bad is if people cash those accounts when they change jobs. That's problematic because it's taxed, and then there's penalty for pre-59.5. So I'd like you to avoid that, and it should become stepping stone of building wealth, that money just gets put, worst case goes to a rollover IRA. You might have both pre-tax and after-tax money in those 401ks. Nearly 6 in 10 U.S. workers have access to a 401k plan through their employer. If you're one of them, you typically have 3 options when you change jobs. Roll the old 401k into another retirement account, cash it out and pay taxes and the 10% penalty if you're under age 59.5, or leave it where it is with your ex-employer. I'm not a fan of that. A substantial number of people go with option 3, according to Capitalize, a company that facilitates retirement account transfers. Americans have left nearly 30 million 401k accounts worth approximately $1.65 trillion with previous employers. Here's a suggestion for you. You're listening and you have money at your old job or multiple old jobs. Here's a number for you to call, 504-832-9200, or go to my website, GregoryRicks.com, and ask for help. Some workers making a move get so caught up in a career transition they forget to move the account, said Scott Goldberg, president of the consumer division at CNO Financial Group. They've got a lot going on, and they're not thinking about their 401k, he says. Here is something that happens sometimes that's bad when you leave your old job. They'll send you a notice that you need to move it, that they're not going to keep it there, and you ignore it. And it might be they only sent you emails. Maybe they sent you a hard letter in the mail. You might have ignored that. You know what young people do? Ignore the mail. They send you a hard letter that, hey, if you don't take it out by this date, we're going to cash it out with old taxes and send you a check. That's not good. I see that happen time to time. So others are unaware of their options or unsure how to transfer the account. If you're leaving a job, you should have plans for the new job. You need to move that 401k or that company plan somewhere else, or move it to the plan at your new employer. Kind of 2 parts to that. While money left in a former employer's plan remains invested and can still grow, advisors warn that leaving it behind could hurt you financially in the long run, especially if it's a situation where they cash it out. Your 401k isn't just an account to cash it out. Your 401k is to 30 years of your life, says Linda Jensen, owner of Hart Financial Group in Washington. Here are some of the risks to moving on without your plan and what to do instead. You might forget about the account. Jason Fannin, senior partner at Cornerstone, often gets calls from clients who have discovered stray accounts they had lost track of. Even if you remember you left an account with a former employer, you might lose track of how to reach plan administrators. You may no longer have access to the account portals or company benefits information. More than half of savers who rediscover or try to do something with an old account are initially unsure of which financial institution holds the account. Tracking it down can be even harder if your ex-employer has gone out of business or merged with another company. All those situations happen. Even if it was 3 years ago, to me, I've used that phrase a number of times today. That's a long time. But we're in like 10 years. If your old retirement account is out of sight, out of mind, you're also less likely to update your beneficiaries to accommodate changes in living or family situation. There's a story I covered earlier this year about some brothers trying to get a deceased brother's account. He had named a previous significant other as the beneficiary. And they said, well, he didn't intend for her to get the $1 million when he died. Well, I guess he did because he didn't change the beneficiary. And his firm notified him over the years that, you need to make sure your beneficiaries update. Well, he abruptly died, and that significant other became Benny's, and they went to federal court and couldn't win it. Number 2, you could be limiting your investment options. Number 3, you could be making your life more difficult. You could forget to take an RMD. You could lose control of the account, and you could be paying more in fees. Just a simple reasons to kind of do that. Reach out to me, info@GregoryRicks.com. Check out the website. Call or schedule an appointment. Let's get you moving forward to a better life with more money saved. Y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Gregory Ricks & Associates, Incorporated. AE Wealth Management does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Gregory Ricks & Associates, Incorporated are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio show was intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Gregory Ricks & Associates is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including but not limited to a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. Neither AE Wealth Management nor advisors providing investment advisory services through AE Wealth Management recommend or facilitate the buying or selling of cryptocurrencies. Third parties and guests of the show are not affiliated with, nor do their opinions reflect those of Gregory Ricks & Associates or AE Wealth Management. AE Wealth Management provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of individual advisors are not necessarily the views of AE Wealth Management. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
WRNO FM, New Orleans, #1 on your presets, in your car, and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. Free never sounded so good.
Protesters at the ready. I'm